good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our ardent listeners. Welcome to HR Digest. Thank you once again for joining us on a Sunday afternoon like this to educate ourselves and to better our lives and also our careers. We are so grateful to all of you all over the world. As we proceed, just type in where you're joining us from and we'll shout out to you. Welcome on board. Today we're going to have some very interesting topic, and I believe that we will never leave here the same. We're going to add so much to our career and to ourselves with all the economic issues happening in Ghana. So now, this is HR Digest. HR Digest is brought to you by Sedat Consult. Sedat Consult is your number one stop shop for all your HR issues. You can't go wrong with Sedat Consult. We are partnered by FA Impressions. FA Impressions for your branding and printing needs. They are the people to go to. And they can be contacted on 0243 526 781. 0243 526 781. So shout out to all our listeners and welcome once again. Now we're going to be joined here to discuss a very pertinent issue. We're going to discuss the government domestic debt exchange program and its implication for the employee benefits and financial well-being. The government domestic debt exchange program, its implications on employee benefits and financial well-being. We all agree that this is a very pertinent discussion that we cannot just let go. And so we are going to be joined by a very experienced financial analyst and professional to help us to discuss this issue. He is a results-driven procurement professional with multidisciplinary strength in human resource management, training, project management, and international business development. A proactive leader with strong analytical, communication, and organizational skills. He is proficient in leveraging his legal awareness, financial and business procurement acumen to promote healthy bottom-line results. He's an adept at exceeding objectives, promoting efficiency, and influencing positive outcomes, picking up 4 national and international awards over a 20-year career that cuts across geographies and 6 industries. This is a very experienced man in the financial sector, and so we can't go wrong with him, and we are bringing him on board. He's in the person of Mr. Kwabena Attah Badu. Mr. Kwabena Attah Badu. Shall we welcome him into the studio, please? Welcome, Mr. Kwabena Attah Badu. I know we've had an excellent discussion behind the scene. I was blown away by the depth of insight and knowledge. And so I know my participants would also be. And so you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Vera. Thank you for having me on your show.
Awesome. Great. So, Mr. Attah Badu, we are talking this afternoon about the government domestic debt exchange program. How will it affect employees and their financial well-being? And so you are the expert subject, you are the subject matter expert there. And so we are going to buy into your knowledge. What is all this government domestic exchange program about? What is it all about?
Okay, that's a good question and a good place to start from. So, if we've been following current affairs, we've all heard about the fact that Ghana is highly distressed in terms of its debt management. We have borrowed above our GDP. Effectively, what it means is that if Ghana was a human being, a father, and his pay was 1,000 cedis, he owes people more than 1,000 cedis. So he's unable to pay his debts. Now, this is an unsustainable place to be. So we approached IMF for support. And part of the conditions were that Ghana has to prepare a plan to show to IMF and the world that over the next couple of years, we'll be able to bring down our debt and create that fiscal space so we can run the country without grinding it to a halt. So part of the proposals that were made to the IMF, for which they got the staff agreement signed, was what they call the domestic debt exchange program. Domestic debt, because Ghana's debts are in two portfolios. One is borrowing from the local market, and another is going on to the international market. Their proposal for the international market has already been done, and they've notified people that, listen, we are distressed, we can't pay you. So that one is a separate conversation. It's the domestic debt, which is the conversation that is at hand. And part of the terms of that was that all government creditors locally who hold bonds were going to voluntarily, and I'm using the word advisedly, because anything voluntary means it's not by force. But you can see that it is called voluntary, but instead of voluntary, sir. So they said they were going to voluntarily waive their right to their money. So it will create the fiscal space. So what was proposed last year was that as of December 2nd, 2022, all bonds that were maturing would not be, or coupons. So the bond is the principal amount you use to purchase it. The coupon is the return that comes, that is paid every 6 months. So you can have a bond for, let's say, 30 years or 15 years or 20 years or 10 years or 5 years. But every 6 months, they pay you a coupon, which is the interest on it. And so any bond or coupon that was maturing from December 2nd, it was being withheld. You won't get it until December 2023. And part of what was in that package was that at December 2023, those whose bond would mature, which means your tenor had ended, and so you wanted your principal back, you may not get your entire principal. You may get a part in 2023 and then a part in 2024. But for between 2023 and 2025, nobody was going to get any interest or any coupon. So it means you are foregoing your interest on that amount. That itself has problems for employees, and we'll come to that one. So once they said bondholders, people who had bonds started reacting. How is this going to impact us? One group of people that rose up were the Trade Union Congress, because they have a large membership and they have contributions. And any finance expert will tell you that, like the president says, you can't pay the day. You don't put money down sitting idle. So any surplus cash, you put it into an instrument to earn something on it. So the TUC itself would definitely have bonds or bills that they were making money off. But their concern was that it will affect their pensions. It will affect their pensions. So they rose up. And then the pension companies also rose up. The reason why the pension companies had to rise up was because the pension companies don't have a choice but to invest in government bonds and bills, because the Pensions Act obliges them to put 70% of their asset under management in secured instruments so as to protect pensioners or potential pensioners from losses. So they work together, the TUC and the pension trustees work together, and government had to back down and say that, okay, we take the pensions out. Before that, government, when they announced this DDEP, they had stated that treasury bills will not be affected. And they had stated that individual bondholders will not be affected. Now, who are individual bondholders? Everybody with a bank account has a direct connection to the Central Depositories Center, which is the center that manages bills and bonds. So if you have a bank account and you want to buy a treasury bill, you have a CDS account that they use to buy for you. So you can individually buy a treasury bill or individually buy a bond. I don't want to advertise for my bank, but my bank has an app that if you go there, you can easily buy your bill or bond without walking into the branch. And when it is due, your principal and your interest will drop into your bank account. So you don't have to go to the bank at all. So individuals have bills and individuals have bonds. Now, I've been using bills and bonds. Maybe it will be worth explaining. A bill is a government instrument, financial instrument that allows you to borrow money to the government, and it's a short-term instrument. So it's either you are lending your money to them in the form of a treasury bill for 91 days or for 180 days or for a year, 365 days. A bond is a more medium to long-term instrument, which is anything between 3 years and up to 30 years, or sometimes it can be 50 years. So individuals have these. Now, what government said was that individuals will not be affected. But once the pension trustees pulled out, and that chunk of money they were hoping to free to be able to use it to balance their books was lost, they had to find other sources. So they decided to rope in a group of individual bondholders whose collective contributions could make up for the shortfall. So once these ones were brought in, people rose up and say, hey, stop, you lied to us. You said that it won't affect individuals. So why are you not coming to us? So then we won't do it. Now, before that could happen, the banks had started instructing their customers who were holding bonds that government says you should come and sign this document here, agreeing voluntarily to waive your right to your money, and it will be put. So effectively, what the debt exchange is doing is this: assuming I have a bond in, let's say, ESLA or Dachi, and these are the terms of the bond, and I'm supposed to get this interest or this coupon every 6 months till it matures. That Dachi or ESLA bond is being cancelled, and a new one is being established, and you are being transferred onto the new one. And that new one comes with its terms and conditions. And those terms and conditions are what will favor the IMF proposals they had made. So the individuals rose up and said, hold on, you can't do that. We have taken legal opinion. And we are aware that you, government, you went to take legal opinion. So when you went to take legal opinion, your legal advisor, which is the Attorney General, advised you that in contract law, you can't vary the terms of a contract to the advantage of a party without agreeing with the party before you vary it. So it is not unilateral. So if you want to do this, you would have to go back to the people and agree with them before they do that. They considered the option of going through Parliament and passing a law. And the Attorney General advised them that you can't do that as well, because even if you pass the law today, laws that are passed that do not take retrospective effect. So you can't go back and apply it on previous transactions that you had closed. So it will have to start from the day the law was gazetted and the president signed it was gazetted. So that was also thrown away. They considered the option of using an executive instrument, and it came back to the same principle of contract law, that you can't change the terms of the contract without the parties agreeing before. So that is why they ended up coming up with this voluntary sign up. So they got to the banks to call people to come and sign up. Some people, probably because it was duress or pressure or they didn't understand the implications, thought their banks were working in their best interest. So they went ahead to go and sign. But when the individual bondholders came together and formed a group, and there are more than 300,000, and I've attended one of their meetings, so I know how vociferous they are. They agreed that no, anybody who has signed is free to go back to go and revoke it. So people have gone back to go and revoke their concurrence to that project. So they've withdrawn their voluntary acceptance of the terms that were offered. Now, what are the implications of all these? As a business analyst, I began to look at the entire financial services value chain and what the implications are. And the first one was that it was going to affect retail and commercial banking, because banks thrive on deposit mobilization. And it is the deposits that they turn around in the form of loans to people and organizations, or investing in bonds and bills that they leverage to make more money, and then they're able to pay you an interest. Now, if they have used these deposits and locked them up in these bonds, and these bonds are locked up, it means they won't have the money back within a certain period. And during that period, they'll suffer liquidity issues. So you are going to have situations where you go to your ATM machine and your bank will tell you, we don't have money to give you. Or you go to your bank account to withdraw your money and they'll tell you, we don't have money to give you because your money is locked up in a bond that has been attached. Let me put it that way. So the banking sector is at risk. The next sector that is at risk is insurance. Because how insurance operates is that we can anticipate a certain level of risk. And if the risk occurs, this is going to be the impact. The impact could be financial, it could be non-financial. But normally we are dealing with the financial impact. And if this is going to be the financial impact, we look at what is the probability of it happening. And if the probability is high, then you want to mitigate the risk, and you use insurance as one of the instruments for mitigating risk. So we always go to the insurance company to buy a policy to mitigate our risk. And they underwrite it and give us a risk premium to pay. Now, those premiums are token amounts. So, for example, if you go and do a comprehensive insurance right now and your car is 50,000, you don't pay a premium of 50,000. You pay a premium of, let's say, if it's comprehensive, let's say 8% of 50,000. And that 8% plus somebody's 8% and another person's 8% and another person's 8% all go into a risk pool, which creates a fund, knowing very well that not everybody will get an accident within the period. So if Kojo gets an accident, we can go to that pool and take some of the money and sort him out. But that money, premiums collected as a fund, is not kept sitting idle. It is invested for it to grow so that they'll be able to meet claims when they come. Now, bills and bonds are some of the instruments that these insurance companies put their monies in. And last weekend, the Insurance Institute of Ghana installed a new executive. And their president alluded that it is going to kill their industry because a lot of companies have about 40% of their funds in those places. So what it means is that you may think you have an insurance cover, but if this thing is supposed to affect them, there will be a time when you make a claim and they won't be able to pay because their monies are locked. So that is how bad it is for the insurance in the sector. It is the same for the pension sector. Now, the hub of all of this is that whether you take commercial banking or you take retail banking or corporate banking or insurance or you take pensions, it is funds, money that has been collected. Now, money doesn't sit in one place. It works, it moves. So it will all have to end up in investment. Now, if you come to the investment industries, it is either you are doing equities, which is the stock exchange, or you are doing the money market, which is the treasury bills. Now, when you come to the money market, there's the primary market where you can go in and buy, and there's a secondary market if you have and you want to sell, and someone else wants to buy more, the person can come and buy yours. Now, if all these monies are taken out and locked up, it means there will be no money. Now, the biggest problem is that it is going to create a lack of confidence in the entire financial services value chain. So if that happens, there will be less money mobilized. There will be less money for investment. So what is going to happen? The effect is that there won't be money, capital available for businesses to even borrow. And if businesses are not able to borrow money to leverage to grow their business, then effectively GDP itself is going to crash. So it is going to have that ripple effect. It's like you've thrown a stone into a pool of stagnant water. When the stone hits the water, you see the concentric circles that begin to expand. That is how bad this thing is. Now, if I were to connect this to the implications of all of this, now what I've just said is the implications of the DDEP to the financial services sector. What is the implications to employees or to employers and their
Right.
EVP.
So, Mr. Abedu-Atta,
This is where we get to.
great. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. So before we go on to the implication for employees and their financial well-being, let me just say some shout out to some of our ardent listeners, and then we can quickly move on to that second portion. This conversation is so loaded and deep that I can't even cut in, but I have to do this so we can say shout out to our ardent listeners. Now, Michael Esilfi, thank you so much for joining. I understand they're having challenges with hearing you, but I hope that my team behind the studio are working to restore the sound properly. And then Michael Kisi, God bless you. You're always with us, joining in from Cape Coast. We have Abina Afrakuma Prempe. Abna, I think you are doing better with the listening now. You said that you could hear us a bit now. And then we have Ohima Esther. Welcome on board. We have who else is there with us? We have Zachary Salamat, and we have David Owusu, and we have Ohima Messi again. Says interesting outlook, love it, and thanks. That's awesome. David also says, what happened to Ghana without aid and all the flamboyant noise we made about it? So people are really concerned. Abuna Fakuma says, so glad I'm on though my sound is off. Thanks a zillion Sedat for the opportunity. Great. So I think that Caroline Eco says I'm on too. Great. Welcome, Caroline. It's good to have you. Right. So Mr. Abedu-Atta, now let's look at the implications for employees and their financial well-being. Whilst we were talking, a lot came up. You're looking at workmen's compensation, you're looking at pension, you're looking at even loans. We didn't even mention loans, but I'm thinking that loans are killing people now because the lending rate at which the Bank of Ghana is giving loans to the banks is making loan interest so high that people are only paying interest and not principal, and their life, even as they are working, is even more complicated. They have not thought about pension yet. We have not thought about an accident on the workplace yet. We have not thought about all of that. But even day-to-day living is becoming something else for those who have ventured into the loan, arena. So now let's go into that implications for the employee.
All right. So if you take a typical employee value proposition, there is the cash benefits and then there's the non-cash benefits. So if you take somebody's pay slip right now, the first item you see is the gross income, gross pay. And then if there are any allowances, they add up. And then the deductions will come. Now, if you take anybody's gross pay and you speak to any financial advisor, they'll tell you that you should spend less than you earn. The essence is that everybody must have an income surplus. Now, that income surplus, where do you put it? You don't put it under your bed or dig a hole in your backyard and keep it there. You keep it in your bank account. That income surplus that is sitting in your bank account, that is part of the deposit mobilization the banks make. And that is what they end up investing in some of these instruments to earn something. So if you put your money in a savings account, they'll tell you that your savings account will earn you, let's say, 6% or 8% per annum. That what it means is that if your 100 cedis or 1,000 cedis was sitting in your account and they took it, made liquidity provision of, let's say, 40%, and the difference was used to buy treasury bills. Treasury bills will give them, let's say, 30%. They can come and give you that 6 or 8% on your money, and the rest is what the bank makes profit of. That's how banks operate. So your income surplus will always go and sit in the bank, and they'll go and put it in an instrument, assuming the bank is overexposed. And most banks are overexposed now as we speak. And I remember the former leader of the finance committee, who is no longer an MP now, stated that he knows a number of banks who are so exposed that if this thing goes ahead, they might crash. So that is the implication for the employees. We could have a situation where if an employee's bank is so exposed, the month will come, his pay will go all right. But when he goes to the ATM or he enters the banking hall to go and draw his salary, he may not get his salary. and because they don't have the liquidity to give, and that is a problem. That is a challenge. The next thing is when you come and look at the first line of deduction, which is normally the SSNIT contribution. Now, the Pensions Act instructs all the pension trustees, including SSNIT, to put 70% of their asset under management into government bills and bonds for security reasons, because the understanding is that those are secure or risk-free investments, and they are allowed to play about with the 30% that is left for higher risk transactions, where that will give higher returns. But the essence is to protect contributors. Now, your money goes to SSNIT, and because SSNIT is a government business, if government decide to even put their hands inside SSNIT and take all the 100%, they won't be able, the SSNIT executives won't be able to tell government that won't give it to you. So what is happening to our pension funds with SSNIT? There's a possibility that the time will come where we'll go on retirement and we'll go to SSNIT that we want our pension, and they don't have the money to give us because the money is gone. Then we come to tier 2, and the same thing can happen because they also have to put 70% in bills and bonds. Then we come to tier 3, where our provident fund and our personal pension and all the ones you find on my own pension and all those ones you find on the mobile phones today, where they operate, they are also obliged to put 70% in government bills and bonds. So effectively, if we are not careful, we will end up going on retirement. And because the pension trustees were not able to grow their asset under management, because they lost either the principal or they lost the interest that was supposed to come, the fund is not big enough to cater for the people who need to draw from it. And so people won't get pension. Or even if they will get, you will see that they won't get the amount ideally they were supposed to get. They were supposed to be getting based on how the contributions are done. So that is the risk for the employee. Then we come to things like regulatory issues. For example, by law, every employee must have at least workmen's compensation, which covers the person when he's working for his employer or her employer on the premises of the employer. Now, because of this obligation, every employer takes an insurance policy and pays a premium to an insurance company to cover their employees to meet this workmen's compensation obligation. Now, if the insurance company has taken this money and it is locked up, it means when an employee gets an occupational hazard and you make a claim, the insurance company may not have the funds to honor the claim. And that is a source of worry. Then you have, so what happens with that, most companies, is that because the workmen's compensation is limited, they step up and they take a personal accident policy for their employees. And because they are employees, so it's a group policy. So it's a group personal accident policy. So the same thing is going to happen. That group personal accident policies cover the employee anywhere else 24/7. So it's a better instrument to use to manage your employee risk than the limited one of workmen's compensation. So that risk exposure is there. Then you have health insurance as well, where you have looked at the health risk of your employees and you decided to buy a health insurance policy and you pay premiums. And those premiums are supposed to be invested and then used to pay your bills as they come. And you find out that you have situations where, and it is happening now as we speak. I have a relationship with a health facility where their claims, insurance claims, have gone, and for months, they are not getting the money. And the bottom line is that they don't have the liquidity to pay. So it is a realistic situation. Now, what does this mean for the employer? It means your employees will fall sick, they'll go to the hospital. The hospitals will tell them that your insurance have not paid my 6 months bill, so I can't look after you. So the employee has to now go and find cash and go and do cash and carry somewhere else or in the same place. And that is not that was not the employee value proposition you sold to them in the first place. So it creates a problem for employers in that space. Then some places where they have welfare schemes where people die and then the company is supposed to give them a coffin and they go pay you some money and all that. And now insurance has become savvy. So we have a lot of funeral policies and funeral services that are there that people have subscribed to. You find out that your employees who are subscribed to all these policies, the time will come to make the claims and they will not be in a position to pay. So the question is, what do we do?
Right. Great. So thank you so much. It's amazing the turn of events and how this is affecting everybody in Ghana. And now it's the headache of management to find out the well-being, the financial well-being of their employees.
Vera, before you go on to the next one, you mentioned loans. Let me address the part of employee loans.
Right.
So you have situations where,
yes,
you have situations where people need short-term capital or they need some bridge financing to sort out something. Bridge financing is where my son is going to school tomorrow. I have to pay X amount. I'm expecting some money to come in, but it hasn't come. So if you can give me this, I'll use it to sort it out. And as soon as I get this one here, I bring it back to you. That's bridge financing. So people need bridge financing. People need loans to do small business on the side and all that. And we normally go to the banks. Now, you mentioned something about government lending to the banks. So government has what it calls the policy rates, or what we call the prime rates. And that is a signal to the commercial banks as to the kind of interest rates they should take. So if you take the policy rates, let's say +5 is what becomes the base rate. Then plus another 5 or 2 or 3 is what becomes the lending rate. So you go and borrow. So if the policy rate is at 25% or at 20%, +5 is the base rate, plus another 5 is the commercial rate. So it means interest rates are 30%.
Absolutely.
So the cost of borrowing
is
high on the employees. So if your salary is not growing at 30% and you go and borrow money and you are paying at 30%, and inflation is already over 50%, it means whatever salary you are paying your employees who are addicted to borrowing, they are already living a stressful life. And if an employee is living a stressful life, believe you me, you are not going to get productivity. So if it means that you must have systems in place. I don't want to get into the solutions yet, but I wanted to do the connect the implications of all of this to loans as well on the employees. So now you can continue.
So we'll come to those. Yes. We'll come to those in a short moment. Let's just see. I hope we are fine. Let's see what our listeners are saying. Right. So Abna is saying again, thanks a great deal, Mr. Kobina, for that movie you posted on LinkedIn about redundancy. I didn't regret watching. Very insightful. Ohima Esther says, good question. What do we do? We had another person making a comment there. All right. So I think that is all for now. Now, we have, before we go on a short break, Sedat Consult is organizing a training coming off on the 23rd and 25th of February. It's designing and implementing effective performance management systems, a 2-day practical and high impact workshop. I know for a fact that you will not regret, with our able Kojo Van S. He's a Kojo Van S, it's a professional management and expert and certified trainer. He's a performance management expert and certified trainer. Kojo Van S, you can't miss this training. So we'll be expecting that. The link has been posted. So if you're interested, if you know a friend who is interested, just click on that or send it to them and let them register. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue this very insightful conversation. Awesome. So welcome back. This is HR Digest. It's brought to you by Sedat Consults and partnered by FA Impressions. FA Impressions for all your branding and printing needs. They are the people to go to. You can reach them on 0243 526 781. 0243 526 781. And Sedat Consult, your number one stop shop for all your HR needs. We are welcome back. Now, we've been having a conversation around the GDEP, that is a Government Domestic Debt Exchange Program, its implication for employees and their financial well-being. We have talked about what that is. We have talked about how it's impacted the finances on workman's compensation, how it's affected medical insurance, how it's affected pensions, and even how it's affected loans. So people are working, but they are finding it difficult to make ends meet because the loan they took to turn around has become something on their head. I think I saw one person say that loans in Ghana have become suicidal. It's a Paul X. Yes, Paul X says that interest rates in Ghana is ridiculous. It's just suicidal to borrow money. And, you know, as you were talking, Komina, you mentioned 30%. And I was actually laughing because people are actually in the 40s. People are already in the 40s. And even at the 40s, they're actually paying just the interest, not the principal. And so they are living, and their period of payments, repayment period has also extended. And so they are like a living debt, so to speak, financially. Right. So we're going to zoom into what HRs can actually do as interventions to help employees. And so, Komina, if you can run us through some of the interventions and from your studies, what interventions can HRs and even management put in, and what can they throw in to ensure that employees are cushioned a bit?
Okay. So the first thing about any employee value proposition is that it is supposed to motivate the employee. And the objective of the organization is to make sure that the employee gets the full benefit. And that is the reason why sometimes you find some employees try to play around with numbers to ensure that they pay less tax on their value proposition so that the full benefit gets to the employee. Some companies try to avoid that by giving more non-cash benefits than cash benefits. Now, any system that has more non-cash benefits means that because pensions are contributed based on the cash benefits, the pension contributions of the individuals are reduced. Now, in an era of high inflation of between 50 and 60%, and that is what government statistics is saying, if you get into the market, inflation is about 300%. So effectively, what it means is that $1 today or 10 cedis today is not the same as 10 cedis tomorrow. So if you can give the value of the money to the person today, the person is better off because he can achieve more today than to achieve tomorrow. So the first thing HRs will have to do is to go back to the drawing table and look at their entire total compensation plan and look at how can I ensure that my employee is getting the value today, because we are living in perilous times and anything you are trying to save for the future may become worthless because forex depreciation is hitting the cedi, inflation is eating it up, and you have the risk of even losing that deposit or that investment you made. So why don't you use it now? So the first thing is to begin to look at the ratio of cash versus non-cash. And if you can move a lot of the compensation into non-cash benefits, then you are giving the person the value today. So we can, as we go along, we can look at some of the options you can consider. So that is the general concept here, that reevaluate your compensation plans, cash and non-cash, and move a lot of it into non-cash so that the people can get the value today. Now, organizations that encourage their employees to take loans should find ways of dissuading their employees from taking loans. Because what it means is that no matter how much you pay them, how well you pay them, once the loan deductions are done, the next income they receive is what they will have to spend for the next 30 days until the next pay comes. And it will look insignificant and they will become dissatisfied, and they will be demotivated, and it will affect productivity. And if they are not making their balance, their accounting balance, they may, and that is when they apply some of the motivational theories, the theory on equity, and they will steal time to do other things to balance their equation. But it is not because you are not paying them well. It is because they are living a lifestyle where they are spending more than they are earning. And so it is demotivating them. So you have to look at ways of dissuading them. And if they have credit unions, and that is what I recommend, if they can set up their own internal credit unions, then they can do what we call thrift and loan. So they would make their own contributions, and they can borrow from that thrift and loan scheme at an interest rate that they have defined. So it is not a commercial loan per se. It's a thrift and loan. We all contribute. And if you want a loan, you come, and we have all agreed that the interest should be 10%, or it should be 5%, or it should be 2%. So then they do the thrift and loan for that kind of bridge financing and all that. So that is another thing that they can do in terms of loans. Then the other thing you can consider is self-insurance. Reason is this: you can do all your assessments and identify your risk, quantify your risk, determine your exposure and the impact. Now it is up to you to carry the risk or to transfer it. When you take an insurance, you are transferring it. That means you are getting insured. If you decide to carry it yourself, it's self-insurance. Now, what is the point in transferring a risk to a third party who, when the time comes for you to call on that claim, may not be in a position to give to you? Meanwhile, you pay the premium. So you may want to begin to consider self-insurance, where the same funds that you were paying as premium, which in a sense is a definition of the size of your risk, you put that same funds aside. If it's a thriving business that has, the CFO can do the business case and the numbers. If the CFO can borrow from that same money, so instead of the CFO going to borrow from the bank to run the business, if they can borrow from that funds and work and get a higher return, they can always pay back and use it to sort out internal issues than relying on a bank to do that. So it will require a little bit of administration, insurance administration internally, but it might be a cheaper and a more secured option to maintain the value proposition of your employees. That is to do with either life insurance or accident insurance, or even company vehicle. You can choose company vehicles. The law is that you must do third party. You can choose not to do comprehensive insurance, because when your car crashes and you need a replacement and they don't have that money to do, they can't replace it anyway. So why not meet the basic minimum, which is a third party insurance? Cover all your cars with third party insurance and keep a fund aside. Now, I used to work in a place where we had that principle. We have more than 100 cars. Now the question is, in a year, if we do comprehensive insurance for all of them, how many of the cars will crash that will need replacement? To be less than 1%. To be probably 1 car or 2 cars or 3 cars. So if we take that whole premium and we invest it, or we put that whole premium aside and use it as capital to do the business and get more money from turning it around, when a car crashes, we can easily go and buy a new one than to go and pay premium and expect an insurance to buy a new one. So self-insurance comes into play. So now companies will have to sit down, the finance officers will have to sit down and look at their risk very well. And they must look at it very well and quantify it very well and determine the risk exposure and vote the budget for it and decide what they will do with that budget. But it will be better to bring it in-house and manage your risk, because the insurance sector is under tremendous pressure at this time, and you can't tell what will happen in the future. So that is to do with insurance. Then we come to pension. In the past, all these insurance policies, policies we had, we used to have them as a welfare scheme. Maybe it's time we bring them back. So like the funeral contributions and all that. If you create a welfare scheme and you know that if an employee dies or an employee's parents die, we'll give them 2,000 cedis as contribution, and we'll give them a coffin. You bring it back, use the money to do some business, get more money off it. And when the person dies, they just bring the death certificate and claim. And then you write a company check for the person to go and buy the coffin, and then go and cash the money and use it for the funeral. And life moves on. Then we come to the pension side. Pensions, tier 1, tier 2 is obligatory, so you can't do much about it. But tier 3, where your provident fund sits, is something you can do something about it. You can choose to manage the provident fund in-house, have your own board of trustees, which the law covers as of today. The only thing is that you are not using a licensed trustee. You are managing the funds internally from your internal funds. And when they contribute together, and then when the time comes for the claim to be disbursed, you put the money off the company's own funds. It will require some internal administration, but in times like this, it's important to be creative and innovative and ensure that you don't lose value. So these are some of the solutions I can give for HRs to consider. Is there anything else I can think of? Investments, yes. So now, if you have surplus income, what do you do with your surplus income? It's a good time to start a side business and put that surplus income into your side business and grow that side business, multiply it so that the value of your money would grow with the business. Other than that, if you are not the entrepreneurial type, so you can't start a side business, you must find other sources of storage of value. So instead of going to put it in an investment and wait for interest to come, use it to buy things that are easy to liquidate. One of the things you can buy is a house. And the house, as the house is sitting there, you may not be earning interest, rent on it. Rent is not interest. Rent is dividend. The interest is the appreciation of value. So if you bought the house for, let's say, $100,000 and you keep maintaining it, as time goes on, the value of the house appreciates. That house that you bought for $100,000, over 5 years, the value can appreciate and it can be 100%. It's a better investment return than any investment you'd have put in. So buying a house is one for the store of value. If you rent it out, the rental income you make is like you went to buy shares and your share value appreciated, which is the same as the value of the building appreciating. But the dividend you got is the same as the rental income you get. So when you're buying a house, don't think that the rental income is supposed to be your investment return. The investment return is the appreciation of the value of the house. So it is important you buy the house in an area which has value and will cause the value to appreciate. So I drove around Ashama, somewhere, Lungubi in Ashama. I went to see some magnificent building be there. And I could imagine that house could have cost the person something in excess of $500,000. And I'm asking myself that in this Lungu, where you drive through mud and you swim through a pool to get to the house, if you decide to sell that house, will you get your $500,000? That is not prudent investment. And that is why sometimes when you are investing, you need professionals like us to advise you on what to do. So you can put it in a house. If you don't do that, you can do land. Or you can do other things like buying gold trinkets, gold chain, gold ring, gold earrings, gold whatever.
On that note, Mr. Komna, I think you're giving them so much. I have to interject you. We have some questions on there. Sorry. We have a lot of interesting questions out there. Credible News, I think it's Aya, that's the name I saw earlier, says that, please, will the debt restructuring affect salary that passes through the bank? Thus, I may not be able to withdraw my salary from the bank anytime I am paid. That is from Credible News. Before you take that, Rahel Adom says, I'm watching from Cape Coast, learning a lot. Thank you. I'm listening from the UK, Josh Zaro. Ahima say, how safe is it to do the self-insurance? Can you explain again? And Michael Kisi says that the resource person, there's a lot. You take the question from the earlier person who was talking about his money going through the bank. Let's take that question, and then I can read the rest to you.
Okay, so that's an interesting one. So every company obliges its employees to open a bank account through which you pay salaries. Now, we have had the banking crisis already, and we had banks being distressed with liquidity. So people had money in their bank account on paper. but they couldn't get their money physically. Now, if this thing is going to exacerbate that situation, then you are going to have a situation where your salary will go to the bank at the end of January. And when you get to the ATM machine to go and withdraw your salary, your ATM machine will tell you that, sorry, we have no cash. So what should you do? If confidence in the banking sector goes down again beyond where it went, then we are going to have a situation where employees will come and tell you that, you know what, I don't want my money to go to any bank anymore. Pay me over the table in an envelope. So when you do something strong, I take my money in an envelope. I'll decide what to do with the money. That is how precarious it can get. And we have seen this happen. When Greece went into crisis, you saw queues at the banks where they were trying to withdraw. In South America, I think, was it Peru or Bolivia or one of those countries? We had similar situations where they went into crisis and people went to bank and they couldn't withdraw money. So it's a clear and present danger that we need to do the pest analysis well and then take mitigating measures. What's the next question?
Can I come on? All right, so great. How safe is it to do self-insurance? Can you explain again? That is from Ohima Esther.
Okay, self-insurance is effectively saying that I know that I have this risk. For example, let me a very realistic one. You are 50 years. Your parents are 78 years. All things being equal, they've crossed what God gave us, which is 3 years and 70 years. So, dole, we know that they will die very soon or later. So, the event cannot be avoided. It will happen. It's only a matter of time. Now, when it happens, how is it going to affect you? So, the probability is high because they are old. Now, what will be the impact if it happens? If it happens, maybe you are the only child. It means you have to foot the full bill because, we've gone past the era where when someone dies, the whole family comes to contribute. Now, when someone dies, everybody folds their arms and sit back. And they say, your children, your mother has died. What are you doing? So that is the impact on you. So if you think that you need 100,000 cedis to bury your mother because she suffered to put you through school and you have become a somebody, your risk is the 100,000. Now, what you do is that you go to an insurance company and say that, I have this risk. I want 100,000 to bury my mother. So how much premium should I pay? Now, the computation of premium is that they take the risk and they do a computation. And for life insurance, depending on the age, it is anything below 1% or up to 1%. If it goes above 1%, then it means the risk is very high. So they will look at, let's say, 1% or 1.5% of that 100,000, and that becomes the premium you pay. Now, you should pay that premium over a period. And normally, the vesting period is, let's say, 6 months or 1 year. After you've gone past the vesting period, anytime the event occurs, they are obliged. So whether you've contributed 50,000, 20,000, 10,000, or even 2,000, when your event occurs and they have to give you the 100,000, they will have to give you 100,000. And the reason why they are able to give you the 100,000 is because other people also paid and their parents haven't died yet. So they are using their money and the returns on the investments they made to pay you. So that tomorrow, as you keep paying, they will use yours also to pay for something. So that is transferring the risk. You can choose not to transfer the risk and use the money to do your business, knowing that when your mother dies, you can go into your business and take some of that money to go and bury her. That is self-insurance.
Awesome. The participation is so great. We've gone beyond our time, but the questions keep coming. Let me just run them very quickly. We'll be wrapping up in 5 minutes. I'm sure everybody agrees with me because we need to know more. Michael Kisi says the resource person, Sir Kwabena Atabedi, is so good. He should be a regular resource person on Sedat HR Digest, and so we can learn more and more from him in terms of investment and financial literacy. I salute you, sir. You are so much. I told him this afternoon that we actually collaborated on a training, so all of you get ready. We're going to go on training with him. Now, Caroline Iko says, could you please share with us some of the non-cash benefits? We'll take that. Ohima Esther says, if you manage tier 3 in-house, wouldn't it mean saving the money at the bank? How safe would that be? And Hananyako says that a very insightful information you have rendered to us. Please, Director Kwabena, I would like to ask if you are saving or doing an insurance. Is it advisable to do partial withdrawal for an urgent need? I asked it because if I heard you correctly, you said a time will come insurance companies will not be able to pay the claims. So can we take Ohima Esther's own? Or Caroline, could you please share with us some of the non-cash benefits? Maybe quickly. We have about 4 minutes. I don't know how quickly you can do some of this.
Non-cash benefits are anything which is not cash on your pay slip. So, for example, you get company vehicle, you get rent allowance, you get health care. So you can go to the clinic for health. You get rent allowance, you get clothing allowance. All those things are non-cash benefits. Canteen, so you eat free at lunch, or the company pays some and you pay some. They are all non-cash benefits. And sometimes we lose sight of all these as part of our benefits package. So I always advise HR directors that make sure that at the end of every year, you give an individual a total compensation statement, which will convert every non-cash benefit into cash. So that when you add it to their cash benefit, they'll see that actually my cost to company is not the net income that drops in my bank account. My cost to company is X amount, which sometimes we are oblivious of. That answers that question. What is the next question? Someone asked the question on if someone was asking that if we bring insurance in-house, wouldn't it mean taking it back to the bank? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So the cash will have to sit somewhere. And you can either take it to the bank, but this time you are not putting it in the account where the bank will now have access to it to go and do investments as bills and bonds. You are putting it on, let's say, a call deposit or a fixed deposit. A call deposit means that I've put this money here in the short term. I can come at any time. And the contract will be that if I make a request within 12 hours, you have to give it to me. Now, that one has a high liquidity requirement. So the banks normally don't touch it. They make liquidity provision for it. So anytime you make a demand, they give you your money back. So in the interim, such funds can be put in such schemes. The interest on it is very minimal because it's high risk for the banks. So they don't give you a high interest because they are not going to put it in a treasury bill that will give them 30%, for which they can come and give you 15%. So those ones, you normally get, let's say, 2% or 3%, and then they carry the risk. The other option is to use the business to do your business. So if you are in the business of transportation, use it to do your transportation and make money off it. So you can pay from the profits. So it's up to the finance directors to do the cost benefit analysis, do the business case, build the business case, and look at which scenario best works, and then they use that one. But they have to think creatively now. We are not in a place for business as usual.
Right. Thank you so much. We've learned so much. Time is against us, and thank you also, participants. You've stayed with us till now, even though we've gone beyond our time. Thank you so much, Wamna. Do you have just about 30 seconds to wrap up whatever you want to say to the participant? Your last words, quickly, and then we wrapping up.
Okay, so my advice to everyone is that, considering the fact that there's a volatility risk in the entire financial services market, considering the fact that interest rates are high, it's not a good time to borrow. Considering the fact that inflation is so high that the value of money tomorrow is worse or less than the value of money today. Any money you have today, make sure you put it in good use today and get a better value for it than to want to wait till tomorrow. So, but like God says, we should cast our cares upon him. We shouldn't worry about tomorrow. We should worry about today. So let's worry about today and believe that things will get better tomorrow so that we can go back to normal living. But for now, we are not in normal times. So let's worry about today and let tomorrow take care of itself.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm sure that with the intermittent rains, we've had some interruptions. We are sorry about that. I hope that we were able to come across with every information that was needed. I had some challenges sometimes, but we thank God that we had a successful time here. So don't forget to sign up for the upcoming training. Send it to your colleagues, send it to your friends. Designing and implementing effective performance management system Please sign up for that and you will not regret it. We come your way again 4 p.m. next Sunday with very interesting topics. So let's keep connected, let's keep learning, let's keep growing. Thank you, Mr. Kwamna Bedu, for coming in. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend, or have
Thank
a
you for
wonderful
having me.
afternoon. Have a
It's been a
wonderful
pleasure
evening.
being with you.
Enjoy the day.
Thank you too.
All
Bye.
right. All right. Bye. We'll talk behind the scenes.
Okay. Ciao.